Kia ora, it's Tanya from DD's Alternative Health here again. Um, I'm talking to you a little bit about business, and you might think, what has um, health got to do with business? Well, it provides shelter, it gives you income to put food on your table, and so um, that is part of wellness too. So if you're feeling well, but business isn't well, that can have an impact on your stress levels. So anyway, I've come to give you some tips on business, even though this website's full of people that run businesses and consultants and all that sort of thing. I'll just tell you a little bit about my business. I became an engineer I started when I was about 16. I done 3 years of technical drawing when I was at high school, and that got me into engineering. I actually wanted to be an architect, but because I lived in Taranaki, they wanted engineers, so I became a multi-trade trainee, and so I studied for a year, and then I studied Manaakitanga, which was all about government agencies, and then I studied Wahapakapaka, which was admin work. And then I met my um, ex-husband, and we bought an automotive business. We bought it for $12,000. That's how much we bought it for. I had two little children, and that business still runs, and he still owns it. I left that marriage, but I don't know, worth about 1.5 million. It's quite a big business. It's got five businesses in it, but when we started, it was only me and him. Um, I would work in the office, and I'd have to go out and hold mufflers up and pass spanners and screwdrivers, and I could do that because I was an engineer too. And then I went in and worked in the office, and he really didn't like me working on the floor, and so I just stayed in the office. And then we implemented MotorSafe, which is the equivalent of MTA, and that was because he came to me and said, "Getting sick of paying for something, and all we're getting is stationery," and so he said, "Do something about it." So I implemented MotorSafe. So I've been in the engineering game for a little while now. So I went out of it in 2012 and went to film school and done film work and writing. And I've always been a writer, but I used to write in a local paper doing automotive stuff. So basically, coming back, that's a bit of my history. And then I went back into opened my own business called Rocket Engineers, and that just does what it does. I like it organically happening, but I thought that with the health problems that we're having, that health and my knowledge of raising children and them being healthy and me having an alternative way of raising them would be useful for you. So anyway, I'm talking about business. Anyway, so there's a couple of things that people don't was seeing in business as employers. It is very hard to get good staff, and when you get them, you want to keep them. And so we knew that right in the beginning of the piece when we owned my own Welsh Auto Services, was that we couldn't get enough staff, and people would bunny hop from job to job to job to job, and we were all scrambling for mechanics, engineers, even though I was an engineer and he was an engineer and we knew engineers. So what he did is he trained them, and so these keen young 15, so he's still with them now, came along about in 1994 or 5. He came along and wanted to sweep the floor, and he became one of his lead mechanics now. And we got another guy that had come out of prison, and he was clean, because that was most important for us, that they had to be clean. He was clean, and he came in for a year and just dismantled dismantled motors, and now he's a manager of the wrecking yard. And so there's when I left, there was a custom American custom department, paint booth, spray painting, panel bedding, automotive, and a wrecking yard. And that business started off with just me and him. So the business knowledge I do have, but my advice to you is when you're looking for staff, even if they might not be as experienced as you want them to be, but if they're keen as mustard, you can always train them to be like how you want them. Better to train someone that knows nothing than someone that knows everything and's got bad habits. So that's what I found when I owned a business. So, and when you get them, you keep them, and you treat them well, and then they go and tell their mates, oh, you should come and work for us. Like, oh, good boss. And so word gets around when you're a good boss. So that's what I foresee the problem is not having enough staffing for people. And my only advice is when you get your staff, be good to them, because they'll tell their friends, and then you'll become elite, and that means that everyone wants to work for you, which is pretty hard to get when you're in business. But that's what that business ended up being like. That lots of people wanted to work for them, and we're turning people away. So and that's just being good bosses. I now do alternative health. So the tip of the day, the tip of the day is be a good boss. If you're a good boss, that means that your workers won't steal, they won't have sick days off, and if they do, that's because they really need sick days off, and productivity is way better. And when you've got good productivity, then they work well. And another thing is when there's hard times, like there's hard times now, and some people can't afford that, and if you were a good boss, they'll understand it, and they might go off and do something else, but they, oh no, I'll come back and work for you. So that's, I don't know whether that's a New Zealand thing or not, but that's how I've experienced having employees. So happy business doing, and this is what I'd like to say to you: when times are quiet, that's when you have to work the hardest. When you've got quiet times, that's when you have to work the hardest, because that is when you're doing your marketing, trying to find new